I want to bring in Austin Goolsbee. He's the former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Before we jump into the economy, President Obama said yesterday in Indiana that he will explode onto the scene once the primaries are over. How will he do that, do you think?
I imagine he'll probably just start saying more about Donald Trump or the Republicans or the race when he's going around doing his events. You showing that Elkhart clip, it was giving me hot flashes going back to 2009. I mean, let us not understate how bad it was at that moment. That was a really scary moment in the country.
Oh, I remember I was frightened, and I was trying, should I pull my money out of the stock market?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, it was a scary time. You're quite right about that. Mr. Obama says, though, the economy is rebounding. Yet, if you go to any Trump or Sanders rally, you'll see hundreds of people who do not see a rosy economic picture. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a big country. You know, you got 320 million people. You're going to find tens of millions of people who support any view. I think it's usual that as you come out of recessions, particularly deep ones and financial crises, it takes a pretty long lag. People want to be sure that things are getting better and that it's not some false dawn, green shoots that never grow into plants. And you have seen in the polling kind of an interesting dynamic where they ask them, how do you think the economy's doing? They are terrible. But if they ask, how are you doing, and are you optimistic for next year, you've seen that actually start turning up a bit. So I'm hopeful that people are going to come around to the view that it was at least getting better.
Well, yeah. A recent Gallup poll showed 1 in 5 Americans are concerned about the economy, and I would think wages is one of the reasons why. I have Christine Romans here because I don't have the figures off the top of my head, but wages certainly have stagnated, right?
They have stagnated, but we just heard from one of the Federal Reserve banks this week, frankly, that they're seeing signs of tight labor markets pushing up wages a little bit. They need to be stronger than they are right here, right now. But there is a sense that at some point wages could start rising, and then people will feel like they have a little more money in their pocket, and then they'll start to feel better, I think, Carol, about the economy. We haven't seen it yet, though.
So Austin, why haven't we seen that yet? Why can't anyone really address that problem?
Well, you know, there are a lot of deep forces going on in the economy. If you ask why haven't wages gone up, but I think one of the principal reasons in the short run we haven't seen wages go up, as opposed to these long run trends, is the economy's been growing, but it's been growing modestly. So it just hasn't been as tight of a labor market as you need to get wages rising. I think there is a certain irony or problem or something about the way the Fed views this, that now you finally start seeing wages beginning to rise, which in my world and in the world of Elkhart, that's great, finally, after a decade or 2 decades. But then the Fed says, oh, no, wages are starting to rise. We better raise the interest rate to prevent wages from rising too much. I think we could get on a vicious treadmill if we start down that road.
So you don't think the Fed should do anything?
It's been my view the Fed should not do something unless and until we have sustained growth in this country and we're quite sure that there's not going to be a financial crisis coming out of either China or Europe. But, you know, I've said that publicly. It's clear the Fed is of a different mindset.
Yeah, and I just want to ask you one more question about disenfranchised white middle-class voters, right? They see their traditional economic life disappearing. It's not really about numbers to them. It's about their way of life. So how do you explain that away?
Well, I don't know that you explain it away. I mean, we've had 3 decades, almost 4 decades now, of manufacturing sector and blue-collar worker wage stagnation, the manufacturing employment shrinking over that time. So there are a lot of adjustments that are taking place in the economy and have been for a long time that I'm not disputing that they're tough to deal with. They clearly are. I think you've seen some states recover better than other states, and still you see this this gnawing whatever it is that's driving kind of a support for outsider candidates like Trump. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's all economic because, as I say, in some places where the economy has recovered faster, you still see the same dynamic taking place.
Austin Goolsbee, thanks so much for stopping